Welcome to the demo. Here we will first verify that no files are present inside this local folder. Also, we are going to verify in our Azure portal nothing is present. So let's go ahead and copy the repository and clone the entire Git repository into our local machine using git clone command. As you can see, the files are getting downloaded. These files are organized into config management and orchestration folders. The first step that we are going to start with is our orchestration piece. So let's move ahead with that. In orchestration, we can see all the required template files are already available, but the required plugin to make those interactions are not present. Hence, we will go ahead and install Terraform plugins to make those interactions. As you can see, by running Terraform init command, all the required plugins are getting downloaded. For example, Azure RM, PLS, and template, which are required to make that interaction, create the certificate, and the day zero config files. Now that we are set with the plugins, we will verify that required plugins are downloaded in the same folder as a Terraform directory. The same thing was not present earlier when we checked. Alright. Now, let's once again verify into our portal that no resources are configured. Okay. Let's start ahead with Terraform plan command. Terraform plan command will run through the entire template and create a graph-like structure to identify what is the dependency of creating the resources. Based on that graph, it is going to create those resources when you run Terraform apply. Terraform plan is basically trying to read all the template files that are present in a previous or current working directory from where you are running it. So it will read through what all providers that you have, what all resources that you require, which resources needs to be created first and which resources would be required at later state. As we are saying it as a Terraform template, I have also provided or utilized the Terraform VR TFVAR files, which is basically a variable file that you can utilize the template for. And by changing the TFVAR files, you can utilize it for multiple other deployments. The only thing you will go ahead and change is the Terraform TFVAR files. Now here we can see that during this deployment, we will be creating 25 resources into Azure portal. The plus sign here indicates that these resources will get added into the Azure portal. And if it is a minus sign, that means it is getting removed, right? All the variables that you are seeing here, that is basically being read from the Terraform TFVAR files. So it will create all the resources. Okay, now that we know that all the resources that it is going to create, and we are comfortable with all the resources, with its values that it is going to attain, the next step would be to run the Terraform apply command to create these resources into Azure portal. Okay. We are running Terraform apply with auto approve to create these resources. Now this template which is created over here or provided during this workshop is basically can be utilized into a greenfield kind of environment where you are creating a new resource group, and within that resource group, you are creating multiple other resources. For this firewall to work, we have designed and provided it into lab topology as well into two resource group where FMC and Ansible are already present and deployed into a separate resource group in a separate VNet. And this FTD, where this Terraform template is being run, that will be deployed into a separate resource group along with separate VM. These two VMs will also require VNet peering so that your FMC and FTD can communicate with each other over SF tunnel, right? Yeah, that you will see during config management part that SF tunnel gets established successfully. So all these requirements like the traffic forwarding, route associations, your VNet, VNet peering, the subnets, and the NIC, which are required for a secure firewall to be built into Terraform, will be created first, which we are currently observing in the screens as well. Now it has first this Terraform template will start with creating those templates for day 0 file. Then it will start creating the certificates that will be used into FTD. After that, it will start with your Azure resources. Like as we have already seen into Terraform plan state, that it will first identify the dependencies, and based on those dependencies, it will then apply it in your apply phase. So now it will start with the independent resource first. Once those independent resources are created, then it will try to deploy the dependent resources. For example, for an FTD to be available, it requires its NIC cards, route association, VNet peering, the storage, and everything to be available beforehand. Once those are available, then only the FTD VM creation has started. So here, if we are to do it manually, we will make sure the dependency prior hand, but here it will automatically be taken care. Now that we see that after 6 minutes, this deployment has completed. So here it will complete our orchestration, and now we are validating the configuration in Azure portal. As we have mentioned, VNet peering is most important part, that we are validating it here, that it is fully synchronized and created, right? So that ends our orchestration piece here. And now we will move ahead with config management part. For that, we will go ahead with our Ansible jump host. But before that, we need to identify the public IP address. In a given production environment, we will not be exposing our internal resources to public internet. But here for the demo purpose, I am utilizing the public IP address. For Ansible and FMC only, for FTD, it is all based on private IP address. Now we have connected to our Ansible, as you can see. The first and foremost thing from here, what we need to check is the connectivity towards FTD. The VNet peer has already been established, right? So first we need to verify that it is connected or not. For that, we need to identify what is the private IP address of the FTD. That will identify it from Azure portal. So we will go, as we can see, the Ansible machine and the FTD, they both are created into different resource groups. Now we just need to identify the FTD's private IP address, and here we go. And when we ping this IP, it should be reachable. Yes, it is. Now let's verify that the manager configuration that we have provided during our orchestration is also available. That we can verify by going inside the FTD and validating show manager command. So we have moved inside our FTD, and here we will execute show manager command. And here you go. It will fetch it, and we can see it is in pending state. And it is also configured with FMC's private IP address. Now this creates the baseline of our config management, right? The next step, what we are going to do is we have to copy the entire content from our local machine to the Ansible jump host. Here we are copying the Ansible related playbooks to our jump host. This step can be changed with downloading the content from GitHub into Ansible itself, but for the demo purpose, we are here utilizing the local copies towards the Ansible jump host. Now we are seeing that all the files are getting copied into Ansible jump host, which we will validate from Ansible as well that we have all the required files present. Yes, those are copied. We have all the required files present. Now we have to check. Since it is a greenfield deployment, we are just verifying that there are no objects which are configured, there is no device which is registered to FMC, and nothing else like policies and other configurations are present on the FMC. All these configurations will be done through the Ansible playbook. But before going there, what we need to make sure is your dependencies are installed in the local machine. For that, I have already provided commands.sh, which will install your required dependency into the jump host. As you can see, since my jump host has all the dependencies installed, that's why you're seeing nothing is done. Otherwise, it will take around 6 minutes for you to install all the dependencies. Now, I already have Ansible installed in my jump host. The next step is I will be utilizing them to run my playbook. But before that, we first need to validate the variable files, right? That it is correct. The variable file here are credential.yaml and that file.yaml. So here I'm just validating my FMC's private IP address is correct. As like in Terraform, we are using tf files as a variable file to the template. Similarly, the Ansible that I have created, the Ansible playbook which I have created, I have created it into similar format. By changing your credentials file and VARs file, you can utilize the same playbook for different FTDs as well. This can be utilized for your hardware platform or it can be utilized for your cloud-based platform as well. So here we are validating the main.yaml. So in general, if you are utilizing the Ansible playbook, it will be connecting over the SSH to the target devices. But here I am utilizing the URI module of Ansible to access FMC over the REST API. Now we are seeing that all of the connectivity has been done. It has accessed its REST API and used its URIs to configure various stuff. So the first step that we are doing is to register the device to FTD. In that process, it is going to create a policy. Along with that, once the policy gets created, it is going to register this FTD, which we have mentioned in vars.yaml to this FMC. As we can see, our required FTD, which we have mentioned in vars.yaml, has got registered. It will take some time to complete this registration. In previous stage, when we were discussing the VNet peering, we defined that the VNet peer needs to be established as FMC and FTD are in different resource book. That we are validating it here, that after some time, the SF tunnel will get established successfully. First, right now, the discovery is in process. As soon as your SF tunnel gets established, your FTD registration completes. And here we go. Now SF tunnel has completed. And now we can see the FTD configured over here. Now here in the screen, what we can see is my FTD's interfaces are not configured. So the next step is to go ahead and configure those FTDs. in this configuration, what we are utilizing it, we will create the security zone, or we will utilize the existing security zones as per the FMC and configure the interfaces to utilize the DHCP IP of Azure. And finally, make the deployment. Once you have validated it, then we are running the setup device playbook, which has all the relevant tasks. So how I have designed these playbooks is all the relevant tasks are categorized into a single playbook so that one particular action can be taken. In the screen, as you can see, there are certain green outputs and there are certain blue outputs and red outputs. The green ones mentions that it is successfully completed. Blue ones says it is skipped. We do not want to process that information. And if it is red, that means there is an error. For example, in this screen, since there is already a deployment going on in FMC, hence it has rejected our request, which we can verify from here as well. Now, when we run the Ansible playbook again, then we can verify that our interfaces are properly mapped. Yeah, here we are validating. There was some issue with the deployment. Now, when we run our Ansible for the second time, we can see that the interfaces are up. They are all green. And in object management, we can see the security zones that is created through the Ansible playbook has mapped itself to its correct interface, right? The outside is mapped to outside interface and inside zone is mapped to inside interface. Both of them are configured in routed mode as well. Now the next step is to configure the routes into FTD. Here I am just creating a default route to divert all the traffic which is received towards the outside interface. As per the requirement, you may change this playbook as well, but here for the sake of simplicity, I'm just creating it or moving all the content from inside to outside. During this deployment, it is going to create the network objects, it is going to create the route and deploy those changes into FTD as well, which we can verify from the tasks as all of them are going successfully. As you can see, there are successful 13 tasks which are deployed. We can also verify that without a user going ahead and deploying those changes, the deployment has already started. Meanwhile, this deployment gets completed, we are going to make certain changes into the downloaded policy.yaml. It is just a minor change where I am going to log the rules at the beginning as well, so that whenever a traffic hits my firewall interface, it should show that into a connection event. As per your requirement, you may change these YAML files as well, as I am changing it here. So here I am just adding a parameter which is already mentioned in your API document. I'm just adding that parameter and then you'll be running this playbook command. We are done with the configuration changes, and here also we validated that our deployment is complete and we're just running the playbook. As you can see, for the demo purpose, I have segregated all these tasks into separate playbooks. But in a production environment, we can very well leverage CI/CD pipelines to perform all these actions. We can just utilize a common shell script which can start from the orchestration till the config management. It will create everything. Only thing that the user needs to make sure is the timing that it will require. Like the user needs to give proper time for orchestration for the REST API to perform its action. There must be proper time difference between each and every task. in the shell script. And finally, once everything is done and deployed, we just need to initiate the traffic from inside host and validate the connection events, whether we are receiving the connections on FMC or not. As we can see here, I'm just going there in inside host to initiate the traffic. And meanwhile, when we look at the FMC as well, we will see the connection events that appeared. That brings us to the end of this demo. If you have any further queries, do let us know.